Good morning, gang. Back to a Monday. So here goes the interesting part of the world again. We'll see what happens when we get back to business. So fortunately here, believe it or not, it finally started raining a little bit overnight. I mean, they pushed it. It was supposed to start raining at 8 o'clock yesterday morning. It was sunny and everything, but, so at least it's raining a little bit now, which is helpful. But that's neither here nor there for what's important to you guys. All right, on a brief note, real quick, just something to watch here. We have the first quarantines for monkeypox in Belgium. 3 people who have monkeypox have now been quarantined for 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens as the spread of this goes on, all right? But the first country has already started quarantining people. Now, I'm not going to say this is a wrong decision or anything like that. You don't want this spreading, sure. The interesting part on it so far, just so you guys know, monkeypox is spread by close contact with other people, all right? And apparently the Belgian cases have all come from a street fair or something like that was held in Antwerp. So people were there. Don't know much about the street fair or whatever. It seems to be sexually transmitted at this point, especially between gay men. So that's where it is right now. Okay, I'm not saying that's the only way by any means or whatever. That just happens to be the current trend with how it's being spread. That the cases that are coming positive around the world are overwhelmingly in gay men. Just saying. All right. But more importantly, this is where the bigger thing that I concern myself with. Our illustrious leader, the mashed potato in chief, is currently in Asia. And a reporter brought up a question to him yesterday saying, if something happens in Taiwan, if China goes in, will the U.S. respond? Believe it or not, Potato Joe didn't give the typical doublespeak or whatever that you'd expect out of a politician. His answer was yes. That was it. So Biden basically declared if China goes into Taiwan, we are going to war. Prepare for that, okay? Now, this is where it gets concerning. China has repeatedly violated the Taiwanese defense zone, okay? Earlier this month, China flew nuclear-capable bombers into Taiwanese airspace. They have sent battleships into Taiwanese waters, okay, outside of, international waters. Obviously, they haven't sent any troops in or anything like that because that would be just too much. But, this is Joe's quote, okay, that China has no jurisdiction to go in and use force to take over Taiwan, that the island nation can be taken by force is just not appropriate. No shit, okay? Here's the deal. The U.S. does not have formal diplomatic relations with Taipei, okay? And there's a good reason for it. Officially, we recognize the One China policy, which means Beijing has control over Taiwan. Now, if you've ever watched the Olympics or whatever, everybody refers to the country as Taiwan. Watch the Olympics, though, because in the Olympics, Taiwan is known as Chinese Taipei. Just giving you that, all right? Because officially, it is not a country. Okay, it is a territory of China. However, the Taiwanese have been basically independent since 1949 and self-governed. So, it's a sticky situation there. The issue is, let's talk about what's going on in the world. Food, fuel, everything. The economies of the world are trashed. All right. The Chinese are seeing the same things we are: inflation, food shortages, fuel shortages, you name it. What do countries do? What do politicians do when the country's falling apart? They go to war. It's usually one good way to solidify the country, to unify the country. Remember, Biden called himself the great unifier. That was wrong. But think of the Chinese. All right. The Chinese are pretty much, you will worship at the altar of Xi Jinping or you will be shot. China has no qualms whatsoever with going to war. They've got the manpower. They've got the military power. Okay. They've got everything in place to need to. I mean, storing all this food. And remember, we've talked about 70% of the world's grain is owned by China at this point. Why do you stockpile that much food? My guess is because you have something planned where you know you're going to be shut off from the rest of the world. China's making some sort of deals with Russia. Remember, Russia is a big producer of wheat. I mean, again, we talk about 30% of the wheat comes from Russia and Ukraine. In case you guys didn't know, 20% of the corn comes from there too, all right, of the world's corn. So China's stockpiling all this food. So when something happens, they don't have to farm. They have the food. They can feed the military. Just like I've said about why the Chinese would never invade the United States, because logistically it would be way too hard to support your troops. Okay, Chinese troops coming, say, hit the coast of California or whatever, you're going to have to bring equipment and food and everything like that to support those troops, right? Very difficult, unless, of course, you take out Pearl Harbor again, which Japanese tried the first time. We have the same problem with Taiwan. If we're going into Taiwan to help defend the country, where are our supplies going to come from? All right, remember, the battles of World War II, the naval battles of World War II in the Pacific were brutal, okay? Trying to get supplies, troops, whatever, to the Asian theater, the Pacific theater. This would be no different. Now, granted, we have the allies in South Korea, we have the allies in Japan, we have the allies in Australia. But you think the Chinese haven't thought of that already, too? Very simple. They go into they go into Taiwan. North Korea goes into South Korea. South Korea is taken off the table because they've got to defend themselves. Remember, Seoul's only like 30 miles away from the North Korean border. All right. The Japanese have issues with the Chinese as well. Okay. Again, China could go after Japan very quickly. That could spread into World War III really, really fast. Everybody keeps talking about Russia-Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine is not the biggest issue to watch. I mean, it is right now because it's what's actually going on. But if China-Taiwan goes off, you have the exact same scenario you had in World War II. You have a European theater, you have a Pacific theater, and this time the weapons are a hell of a lot more deadly. If this comes to our soil, guys, which is very possible, because who knows who's coming across the southern border? I mean, there was a rush over the weekend of a bunch of Hondurans, I think it was, that were sick and tired of waiting for Title 42 to expire. Little do they know that it ain't going to happen. But we don't know if you had Chinese. We don't know if you had North Korean We don't know if you had Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever it is, come across. There's people from every country that have come across. You don't know how many quote-unquote sleeper cells there are in the United States, where the official war may be on a faraway land. The real war, the one that's going to matter the most to you, your survival, could happen right on your doorstep. And there ain't nobody coming to save you. Because if some platoon of a hostile comes marching down the street, I'm sorry, our military is not concerned with that. They're off in foreign land somewhere, and these hostile forces could go just marching through neighborhoods. It's going to be very, very, very important for you and your little mag. I'm not saying that insultingly, your little mag, because none of us have monster mags, to be able to defend yourself against forces that may have better weaponry than you. It's going to be time to get creative for how you defend what's important to you, your home, your family, your property, whatever it would be. World War III will not be a conventional war. World War III will be a guerrilla war. And you're going to be part of it. Pinball out.